So this is a quick introduction into using the command line on the Macintosh. Most of what we're going to be doing on the command line actually has to do with managing files. So I have the Finder pulled up, which is the graphical method for managing files, and hopefully everyone is familiar with this. If you have a Mac, if you've used Mac OS X, this should be a familiar sight to you. If we wanted to create a place that we could start writing our code and saving our files, we might go over to this navigation menu over here and maybe go into the documents. The documents folder is a good place to store these things, and I might right click on that and select create a new folder and call this one Python coding. And then if I wanted to go into that folder, or directory, as we'll find that they're also called, I double click on that, and here we have an empty folder. Now the command line on the Mac is called the command line, but it's also called the shell, and it's also called terminal. And terminal is the program that lets you access the command line. To get there, there's a few different ways that you can get to the terminal if you've never done it before. The easiest is probably just going up to the Spotlight search and typing in terminal. And that's the #1 hit. You can click on that and it'll open the terminal. The icon for it is a little black box with white text. If you use Launchpad a lot, you can hit Launchpad. Terminal is kind of hidden in this other folder, so you have to go into other and then start it here. Or you can go into your applications folder and go into utilities and start it from there. Once you start it the first time, it'll come up here. Even though the icon is a black background with white text, the actual terminal window, the default is a white background with black text. So don't let that fool you. Once it's on your dock, you can right click on it and say options, keep in dock, and then it's always there, and then you can just go over there and click on it. That's what I do. So I've set up the terminal program right next to the Finder program so that we can kind of compare what we would see on the command line versus what we would see in the graphical user interface of the Finder. The first thing you'll want to notice is the prompt. This is where you're going to type in the commands. All the interaction with terminal and with the command line is in the form of text commands, things you're going to be typing in. The mouse essentially doesn't work in terminal, so keep that in mind. All the commands, everything you need to do, you need to type in. The prompt can look different. I've got that base Trevor S at Air Grumps and then the percentage sign. Don't be alarmed if yours looks a little different. A lot of this has to do with just esoteric details we don't need to get into right now. But that is your command prompt, or that's my command prompt. The first command that we're going to look at is PWD, which stands for Path Working Directory. And that is our You Are Here marker. It tells us where we are in this folder and directory structure. So if I type that in and hit enter, it says that I am in this directory that is /users/Trevor S. That's interesting. We're going to use that command PWD every time we change our working directory, every time we change our folder, to make sure that we're in the right spot. So how do we actually change directories, and how do we see what the directories are? Well, LS stands for list, and if we just type in LS, it will list the folders and the files that are in our current working directory. So our current working directory, remember, is /users/Trevor S, and right now we have applications, we have Calibre Library, Creative Cloud Files, Desktop, Documents, Downloads, Library, Movies, Music, Pictures, Public, VirtualBox, VMs, and OPT. One of those directories looks really familiar, the Documents directory. And if we go over to our graphical user interface, that's the same directory that we have over here in the navigational menu. So if I click on that, it shows us all these folders that are available in the documents directory, in the documents folder. So if I want to change directories into the documents folder so that we can see the same thing in our command line, I just type in cd. So that is the other command that you need to learn how to use. You've got pwd, you've got ls, and you've got cd. So we're going to change directory to documents. And now I'm going to do a pwd to tell me where am I. And it says now I am in users Trevor S documents. And if I do an ls, which lists the files and folders, notice the folders that it's listing here are the same ones that are over here in the graphical version of that. So when we see the folders, when we're in Finder and we actually see a picture of the folders, to be in that same folder on the command line, you don't get a picture, but you get the names of all the folders. And that is the same and they match. So that's great. So remember, we created that folder called Python Coding. Let's change directory into Python Coding. We'll do a pwd to make sure that that's where we are in fact at, and we are, users, Trevor S documents, Python Coding. And now if I do an ls, what are we going to see? Nothing. Is that true? Well, yes, it turns out Python Coding is empty. So we're seeing the correct thing. What would happen if we created something in here? Let's create another folder called week 2. We did that in the Finder. Now let's see if it is represented on the command line. So I'm going to do another ls. And there we have a folder for week 2. One more thing before I forget. We go down into these directories. How do we go back up and out of them? So if I go into, I change directory into week 2, and I do my pwd, and it shows that yes, I'm in users Trevor S documents Python Coding week 2. Now I want to get back up into Python Coding. I can do cd ... The ... just says take me to the parent directory. Take me to the directory that is immediately above wherever I'm at. And that would be, in this case, Python Coding. And I can, of course, do the pwd, and it shows me that I have gone to the parent directory. The other thing you can use cd for is to go directly to a directory. And in that case, you have to put the full path name. So if you go users Trevor S desktop, and I do a pwd, it will have taken me, I will have jumped from wherever I was at to this new directory by name. So finally, what I want you guys to be able to do is to run your Python scripts or programs from the command line. And to do that, you're just going to type Python and then the name of the file. Now, if you hit 2 dashes and type version, this will give you the version of Python that you are running on the command line. And this most likely is the same as the version you just installed, but it never hurts to double check. And sometimes, because of strange things in the path variable, you may get an older version of Python in the shell. So just to make sure, I'm going to run Python -- version. And it says the version of Python that I'm running on this machine is 3.7.6. If I was going to run a Python program, it would be Python and then the name of the program. So program.py, which doesn't exist. And if I try to do that, it's going to give me an error. It's going to say there is no such file or directory. So obviously we need to create a file that we can run from the command line. And we're going to do that in the next section. Thank you for your time and attention.